We are new on the YouTube route. We are trying to backtrack some things and fill you on some projects that we didn't have our video camera for. We've been wanting to have a workshop from forever. That's sort of been in the process for a while because we closed the house previous.
Long story.
It didn't work out. This is our second attempt, really, on getting a workshop. The process to pull a permit was started in February, and then the permit was approved in March. Meanwhile, we were interviewing people. We'd never interviewed people to work ever. And we had 3 quotes. One was astronomically high.
$18,000. I was rough guesstimating around $2,500, and it ended up being around $2,000 when we found better quotes. And Sarah, batted her blue eyes, and we got some better pricing on things. So when the truck arrived, the main guy we've been dealing with, he starts shoveling. One person, and he's just moseying along. There's no
slow. There's no sense of urgency.
No urgency, just la-di-da. He's got two other little lackeys that are kind of working a little ahead of him, working on the forms. Me, Sarah, the driver, kind of started realizing that he's going pretty slow and he needs help. So we had a couple extra shovels. So we started helping, I think, and his 2 little lackeys that don't know how to use a tape measure are continuing on. So I'm halfway shoveling, halfway having to keep an eye checking their measurements because they don't know how to read the drawing, they don't know how to read the tape measure. I mean, there's several times where they were like a good, like a solid inch and a half off. Sarah's in the dress looking pretty as always, shoveling concrete. Me and Sarah busting butt, driver's busting butt, concrete guys la-di-da, whatever. We got plenty of time in the world, no big deal. And eventually kind of make it around. But in the meantime, about halfway through the trough thing, the generator blows up. And it's one of those quack, quack, quack.
This definitely would have gone into the other side. This is definitely enough. But it might have been a little short, but it would have been. I mean, it's definitely right there. But we can't put into the other thing because let me take you over here and show you that they are not ready. This is not ready for concrete. Not ready for concrete. And yet, we have concrete because the mister who we hired to do concrete, because he's the expert, told me to order concrete, even though they are not ready for concrete. Not ready for concrete.
All in all, it was about 4 hours that truck was there between when we called him and when it ended.
And we took the driver. We took the driver.
He's got to add water to it,
which makes it, yeah.
So it's not. We gave the guy a chance, to come. We didn't have the whole meth head story. We hadn't thought about that, but we're obviously upset. We've got clips of Sarah yelling at them.
No, I don't think we do.
Maybe.
He never showed up ever again.
And we waited a couple of days, never heard from him.
So, someone at Charley's work she was like, hey, I know this guy, he's great, blah, blah, blah. And here's his number, and he came out to the house, his name was John Miles. Saw me. I explained what had happened to him. Charlie was at work, and so he was all willing to help us. We had this whole thing, and he was just like, "Hey, I'm just swamped. I'm really swamped. So when I get," he was like, "There's probably about 2 days worth of work left." And he's like, "When I get some, about 2 days, I'll get my crew out here, and we'll finish it up, knock it out for you." I was like, "Hey Charlie, why don't we just finish the last leg ourselves?"
It took us a while to get a rhythm. We had like 8 or 10 different things we tried to pull that crap out.
And whose method Whose method worked?
After I figured out all other methods didn't work, we had no other. Then I figured out 8 ways to not build a light bulb.
I said this.
Then little Miss Edison came here and said, this is the only thing you haven't tried.
No. I said this way before you tried anything. I said, "Hey, why don't we just do blah blah blah?" And you were like, "No, that's not gonna work." And I said, "Okay."
It wasn't that I said it wasn't working.
And it turned out my way worked.
So we ended up hooking underneath the board.
And that worked just fine.
We had to obviously dig down, put the hook underneath it on one side of the board and kind of levered it up, and that ended up working. And
at this point, we had all of the footers were poured and all of the boards were out of the ground, and we were still waiting for our friend John Miles to get 2 days of freedom to come over here and finish up the slab for us.
And meanwhile, this had been like a 6-month ordeal. So weeds were growing up in it. And so I spent a lot of time just trying to kill those dang weeds.
And then we get to August. And my youngest brother, we were talking with him and one of his friends. They were going to come up and then help the 2 of us do the slab. Yeah, because that Friday, Otis came out with his crew to finish up the preparation.
You were out of town that weekend.
And then I went
Monday
out of town.
we had the inspection.
Yeah,
and,
Monday
so
was
I passed
the funeral.
inspection, and then so Tuesday, you were back by the time he came.
Yeah.
By the time he was there, and Tuesday.
I was back and he was pouring. The 2 of us started to assemble the arches on the floor. We got all of the arches together in a few weeks. And then some of Charlie's coworkers came over and very graciously helped us raise the arches.
Day 1 went a little slower than we wanted to, and so we just picked up the next weekend and finished up. And I think it was maybe about 8 hours total to lift the arches, and of course put a couple bolts in there just to kind of hold it in place. That was basically me on the top, pulling the arch up, and then there were 2 guys on either side, kind of manhandling it. And we tried it, me on the top and 1 guy on either side, so 3 people total, and that was just too much. Because it's not that heavy, but it's real awkward, and the sheet metal kind of wants to flop and bend around, so really needed 2 guys on the bottom to manhandle it.
2 on each side.
On each side.
I walked up the building with Charlie's help on the other, kind of like this rope system. I put all the bolts in from the top, and he did all the nuts from the bottom. And
again, this was still kind of tail end of the summer, and she was up on the top.
It was hot.
I was sitting there.
It was a
in
metal
the shade.
building. Like
I was loving life. She was getting
reflecting on my feet.
not the same kind of treatment.